Good afternoon. It's just gone midday here in the UK, Thursday the 13th of March. So we'll take a quick look at indices and then run over BTC again. So yesterday we had the CPI data. There was a bit of a push into it, across indices and crypto, and it got pretty much bonked straight back down. So if I look at NASDAQ now, we're still in balance down on the month. We're still rejecting off the monthly value low. And as I said yesterday, until we get above that, we need to just be mindful of the probability of continued downside. If we just look at this structure, it really just looks like a bear flag. So we have come into previous year's VWAP, and we're just not really showing any sign of strength here at all. It's just weakness from buyers, I think. So we have managed to make higher lows, higher highs, but the momentum is still firmly to the downside. So unless we can get that clean shift above monthly val, in which case we're probably going to see a squeeze higher, bias should probably be towards continued downside. Next level we have to the downside is this naked quarterly val at 18,800. But really, having lost previous year's value high, I think we probably continue towards previous year val around 17.8 overall. So we are kind of at support in the form of previous year's VWAP. It's possible that, for example, that we sweep that low and see some relief, but until we get above here, the developing months value low, I think we're going to see more downside. So still bear bias on NASDAQ at the moment, and obviously that should probably inform our thinking around crypto. So let's take a look at BTC from a VWAP perspective first of all. So there are some encouraging signs. So we are obviously holding at previous year value high, whereas obviously NASDAQ is well below that. We have shifted back inside the developing month. So it certainly looks a lot better than NASDAQ does at the moment. Yesterday, if this weekly wants to load, I don't know why it's taking so long. Here we go. So yesterday, we had a decent reaction off weekly VWAP, but we've been unable so far to get above this 83.8 level, which I'll come to in a moment. At the moment, still trading above weekly val, a weekly value high rather, but if we shift back inside that, I think we're probably going to see ourselves rotate back towards this area of imbalance around 79k. Let's take a look at it from a profile perspective as well. Let's just come here and do it. So BTC, if I grab the weekly. So we formed 3 days of overlapping value, and the composite high at 83.7 aligns with this 12-day composite low. So, you have a really nice level there to work with should we see a shift above. So if we get a shift above this, then we're going to squeeze higher, right? And in this instance, if we should shift above 83.8, 83.7, 83.8, we're probably going towards 90k and completing that rotation through this previously established area of value, where we have our previous week's value high and the developing month's value high also aligning around 90k. So that's the long play if we get above 83.6. As things stand though, we're just rotational within this 3-day composite, and unless we can get above that high, there is some pretty stacked supply in this area, then we're probably going back towards the composite lows at least. So the other long that you could look for potentially would be if we get some kind of failed shift below, perhaps to take out this low into this gap that we just talked about, and then a reclaim of the composite here. That would be the other entry. Do I want to short this ahead of New York Open? No, I don't personally. There are some signs that perhaps this is a sign of strength that we're trading above weekly VWAP. We've tested it here, we're trading above weekly value high. But on the other hand, you could also make the argument that this is just weakness from buyers. Perhaps we're printing some kind of ascending wedge structure before this breaks lower, in which case the area around the low 70s is going to be the next stop. So it's a very aggressive short at the moment. I think if we shift back inside the developing week and find resistance here at this sort of area of supply that we're forming, you could at least look for an intraday short towards this area. Personally going to wait for New York Open to decide what to do, if anything. But yeah, until we can get above 83.6, I think it just makes sense to remain bearish on BTC right now. Other stuff. All right, let's leave Bitcoin there. I think we've covered everything. Solana, is struggling at this long-term composite level. So have we accepted below here? Is this now resistance? That looks quite plausible. So, numerous attempts at this 8-month composite low since last April. And we've started now putting in some closes below. So unless we can get, find acceptance back above 126, next level to the downside is around 100, being this old 3-week composite, which we haven't tested for some time. So yeah, that would take us below previous year's value low, and then 102 area would be the next area of support I'd be looking at. So potentially a short available on Sol. Yesterday we had a pretty big rejection. I took the short here to close it out, but yeah, again, unable to really find any acceptance above the developing week's value high, and looking as though we're finding acceptance below the 8-month composite low at 126. So potentially a decent short towards 102. Not looking particularly brilliant. If we look at it very objectively, it just doesn't look very good. So yeah, that is not the best look, is it? So yeah, 102 would be the next downside target, unless we can get a clean shift above. And if we do get a clean shift above, right, I think you're just better off being patient, because when you get a shift back inside previously established value, that value low almost always gets a retest. So even if we do come up here, let's say, and then get the pullback, you're still probably going to be able to find an entry to the long side above 125 anyway, around 125 anyway. So don't think there's any reason to be trigger happy with longs. Not looking particularly great. Other stuff, with some bounces today, but we are just trading it around areas of resistance. So I took a long on Bearer, but we're trading below previous month's value, or previous week's value rather. So unless we can get above that and flip it into support, not looking particularly brilliant. So I was a bit more optimistic when I woke up, but the way things are developing, if I just look at it from a sort of positioning and book perspective, the skew locally is towards the ask. So we came up, again, clearly there are people trying to get long, open interest coming into, or open interest is measured by RSI, coming into overbought territory again on the 15-minute, and the book skew is just not supportive, right? So this is where we got bonked overnight, and we've been bonked here again this morning. So not looking particularly great. Really, if we're taking intraday longs, we need to see stuff like this. We need to see favourable book skew and OI reset. Not what we're seeing up here at the moment. So yeah, doesn't look particularly brilliant. I was optimistic when I woke up because I was long from yesterday, but quickly dashing those hopes within myself. So anything else to look at? I mean, obviously, you can look at dominance and say, okay, this looks like potentially it's going to drop, but I don't think you want to be long in alts if BTC is looking bearish. So yeah, not great. Unless if we flip here, everything changes. But until that happens, I would just be leaning towards more downside and respecting the trend. I think that's all I have to say for now. So I'll speak to you in the next one. Cheers.